Good morning, students. This is lecture 4 of chapter number 2, Federalism, class 10, subject civics. So in the previous lectures, we have talked about the chapter Federalism in parts, and what we have discussed majorly are what does federalism mean, what are its objective features, and how it works in India, how it is practiced, and the decentralization of power. So we have discussed about all these topics in these previous lectures. Now in this particular lecture, we are going to study about all the things. We are going to have a recap of all the things that we have studied till now. All the 3 lectures, we are going to have a recap of it. So I am going to start from the beginning again, what we have talked about. First of all, we'll discuss about federalism. What does federalism means? What is it all about? So first of all, what is federalism? Basically, in the previous chapter also, in the power sharing, you have studied about the different levels of government. So basically, federalism is a form of it, a form of power sharing in a modern democracy where the power is shared into 2 hands, not one, into 2 equal hands, where the power is shared in 2 hands, and that is just and acquired by the people of India only. So the federalism of system of government in which the power is divided between the central authority and the various constituent units of the country, basically the state government. So the government of any country runs on these, majorly on these 2 tiers of the government, basically the central and the state government. So federalism say that only that when the power is divided into 2 equal parts, into 2 equal system, that is federalism itself. And when we talk about power sharing, in the previous chapter that if you can recall that also, that the constitution of Belgium was sharing this kind of system only in their government, in their in their government as the power of the central government, and to give these power to the regional government, they had divided the power equally to each of one of them. So they have applied federalism way back. Then this federal system has some objectives also. What are basically these objectives are to safeguard and promote unity of the country. So when we share powers, when you are going to share power, so obviously if you are giving those power to with equal amount of responsibilities, it is actually going to promote the unity of the country, and at the same time it accommodates the regional diversity also. So people accept all the changes that are coming up in a particular region. They are taking each and everything in a healthy way. If the power is in equal hands, it is not under only one person who is handling all the things. Therefore, these 2 aspects are crucial for the institution and practice of federalism to promote the unity of the country and same time to accommodate the regional diversity. So it is basically the 2 objectives of a federalism. It should be there, so that if you are practicing federalism in any sort of country, it is going to work properly. Then the government at different levels should agree to some rules of power sharing. They should also trust that each would abide by its part of the agreement, and an ideal federal system has both aspects, mutual trust and agree to live together. So you know that when there is the people who trust us, like you also trust your teachers, basically the same, the people are going to trust the government only if they are abide to these kind of agreements. An ideal federal system has both aspects, where the mutual trust between the people and who is there to govern them, they should have a mutual trust between them, so that it could work. अगर वो trust नहीं होगा, if the trust is not there, they are not going to work properly for them. So the agreement to live together and that mutual trust is required at every level. In your book also it is given that on page number 14, you can see that federalism is a system of government in which the power is divided between the central authority and various constituent units of the country. So the same definition is written there. You can copy it from there if you want a proper definition. And usually a federation has two levels of government. So it has basically two levels of government, which are they? It is one is the government for the entire country. For the entire country, that is the central government here, and other one which is responsible for a few subjects of common national interest. That is the state government here. Then we come to what is unitary system. When we talk about federalism, unitary system is a part of it. In this form of administration, there is only one level of government here. So when we talk about federalism in any form of administration, there is one level of government, and if there are more subunits, they are subordinates to the central. So the central government is the main level of the government from where all the orders have been passed to the other subordinates of that particular government, and here the central government is the one who passes on the orders to another levels of government, and those other levels of government are subordinate to the central government. Means they are answerable to the central government that they have applied those orders or not. So basically, like here in India, the current situation was about this lockdown, how it happened. So the central government, the Prime Minister of India, has announced that there will be a lockdown of 21 days. So he has made the order that it should be particularly in these states or in the entire nation. If he has stated that it should be there only in Delhi, Kolkata, Maharashtra or Kerala. So if that was the situation, so the lockdown will only be applied to only these states, and the people who are responsible of these states, they will make sure that the orders are clearly applied to in their particular states. They should be used and applied in a proper way. So he has given certain orders to these particular states, so they have to follow that, and he is going to follow up with it if it is properly assigned all the things or not. If it is not, he will let know to the central government itself. He will tell to the Prime Minister that we are facing such problems, so he will assign the more people so that it could be easier for them to solve their problems. Likewise, now lockdown is at every state of India. The complete country is locked down. So every state minister who is there responsible, they are making sure, they are the subordinates who are following these orders and making sure that people stay at their home. They should not come out. There should be particularly, if they are not necessary, they are not coming out. So they are making sure of all these things, that it should, whatever the Prime Minister has said, they have to follow those orders, and if it is not being properly done, they are not going to they are the one who are going to respond back to the central government itself. So that's how it works. So now basically we'll talk about the features of federalism. So in federalism, what are the basic features? So first is that there are two or more levels. When we talk about federalism, in many of the countries there are only two types of government, but in many countries like India there are three types, like local self-government is also included now. So these two or three levels of government is there as a feature of federalism. Then each level has its own jurisdiction. So what does jurisdiction means here is that the area over which someone has legal authority. In a particular area, if someone has a legal authority, the area may be defined in terms of geographical boundaries, in terms of certain kinds of subjects. So that's a kind of a definition of this, particularly who are living in a particular area. They have certain legal authority towards that only, not after that where they are not living. So the fundamentals of constitution can't be changed by central level itself. So basically the fundamental provisions of the constitution cannot be changed by one level of the government. Such changes require the consent of both the levels of the government. So basically the central level does not have that much of power that he can change the constitution itself. He need the response of the other state members also. If they also agree to it, it is going to work, otherwise it will not work. Then the courts have the power to interpret the constitution and the powers of different levels of government. The highest could act as an umpire if disputes arise between different levels of government in the exercise of their respective powers. So basically the court also have the power to interpret all the changes that are occurring at different levels, and they act as an umpire if the disputes arise between the different levels of the government here. Then the sources of revenue for each level of government are clearly specified to ensure a financial economy, and the federal system has the dual object. So basically this federal system has these two objectives that we have talked about, basically about the safeguard and to promote national unity and accommodation of regional diversity. So all these things come under features of federalism. So there was an extract that has been given to you in your book on page number 15. The exact balance of power between the central and the state government varies from one federal to another. So this balance depends mainly on the historical context in which the federation was formed. So basically here they have talked about that if the partner that is there with the central government and the state governments, if they are of rivalry parties, obviously they cannot term into mutual decisions. Sometimes there will be conflicts. So there should be a clear historical context between them, so that there should be clear and there should be no rivalry between these, and there should not be any conflict between them. So because of this, there are some types of federalism was made, and these two types of federalism were first coming together and second is holding together. So what does coming together means? So coming together means that all the independent states that come together and form the bigger unit, it helps to maintain the security and sovereignty. So basically here they say about the first route involves independent states coming together on their own to form a bigger unit. So when independent state is coming together to form a bigger unit with the another one, so that by pulling sovereignty and retaining identity, they can increase their security. And this type of coming together federation includes the USA, the Switzerland and Australia. So in this first category of federalism, all the constituent states usually have equal power and are strong enough, and they are strong enough for each other in this federal government. Then holding together, the second route here is where a large country decides to divide its power between the constituent states and the national government, like India, Spain and Belgium are examples of this kind of holding together federalism, where in this second category the central government tends to be more powerful and the state doesn't have that kind of a power. So basically the central government, the central authority have more power than the state government here, and very often different constituent units of the federal have unequal powers also, and some units are granted special powers. So some of these states are given some additional powers, and some states does not have that kind of a power like any other state has. Now what makes India a federal country? So basically, what makes the India a federal country? So basically, division of power. Some states have given more power, and this written constitution that have been made, the union territories, jurisdiction, levels of government. These are few of the things that can make India a federal country. So if we see that there's a set of features that have been applied in the provision of this Indian Constitution, and the Constitution originally provided for a two-tier system of government. The Union government, for what we call the central government, representing the Union of India, and the state government, which is later a third tier of federalism, was added in the form of panchayat and municipalities. As in any federation, these differences can enjoy their separate jurisdiction as well. In India, basically how? Because this constitution clearly provides a threefold distribution of legislative power between the union government and the state government. And in this list, it comes firstly about the division of power in 3 or 4 categories. Firstly, about the union list. In union list, it includes the subjects of national importance such as defense of the country, foreign affairs, banking, communication and currency. They are included in this list because we need a uniform policy on these matters throughout the country. And the union government alone can make laws relating to the subjects mentioned in this union list. Then the second one is the state list. In state list, it talks about the state and local importance such as police, trade, commerce, agriculture and irrigation, and the state government alone can make laws relating to the subjects mentioning in the state list. Now the third one is the concurrent list. In this concurrent list, the subjects include of common interest to both the union government as well as the state government, such as education, forest, trade unions, marriage, adoption and succession. So both the union as well as the state governments can make laws on the subjects mentioned in this list. If their laws conflict with each other, the law made by the union government will reveal. So it will change if it is making conflict between the people. Then after these three, one more subject was also added, that was residuary. Basically in this newly added, it was newly added because after the constitution was written and central government only has the right to make laws on them. So it is giving all the rights to state government also. So this is the chart that we have talked about, that union list have subjects of national importance, and it is basically union alone who can make laws for defense, banking, currency, foreign affairs and communication. And state list, it has a subject for local and state importance. State government alone can make laws here for police, trade, commerce, agriculture and irrigation. And concurrent list, it is the subject of common interest both between the central and state, and they are both framing the laws for education, forest, trade, union, marriage, adoption and succession. So now we can talk about how this federalism is practiced. How federalism is practiced on the basis of few of the things. Firstly, we will talk about this linguistic state. So there were many challenges that was occurred in federalism. Firstly was this linguistic state. So the creation of this linguistic state was the first and the major test for democratic policies in our country. If you look at in the map of a political map of India, there you can begin its journey as a democracy from 1947 till 2006, and you will be surprised by the extent of the changes that have been acquired in India only, and many old states have been vanished and many new states have been created, and these areas and boundaries are names of the states have been changed. In like 47, these boundaries of several old states of India were changed in order to create new states. So they were making new states, like Telangana has just been made in 2013 only, and there are so many states that have been vanished also, and many of the states they have their merged also as one state. So new states were formed on the basis of their language and culture there, and many states were formed on the basis of ethnicity and geography, such as Nagaland, Uttarakhand and Jharkhand, and some were concentrated, that is might lead to disintegrated of the nation, but that worked well and efficiently for them. So that was the first challenge that had been acquired for federalism as a whole. That was the linguistic shift that happened. So because of this, it was basically done to ensure that the people who spoke the same language live in the same state. So if they are living in particular in the same state, they can have a better life. For example, the Gujarat, West Bengal and Bihar. So these are the people, they want that these people, if they have the same language, they should live in the same state also. And some states were created not on the basis of the language, but to recognize differences based on their culture, ethnicity or geography. These include the states like Nagaland, Uttarakhand and Jharkhand. Now, how federalism is practiced in this language policy. So it was second and the major, as India does not have any official language at that point of time. It was not been discovered that Hindi is probably the official language, but after the survey, as per that, 40% people speak Hindi and more safeguards are provided to it. So that was considered as the official language with English, but there are only 21 scheduled languages that have been considered, and state can enjoy its own language for official purposes. So in the constitution it was mentioned that there were 21 scheduled languages, and the state particularly for that language can enjoy their own language for official purposes. We can adopt 3 languages structure, and any 2 languages can be used for administrative purpose. So basically in every school and colleges it was mandatory to adopt 3 language policy. Basically Hindi, English is major, or they can use their regional language, and with that they have to learn one additional language also. So this 3 language structure was applied in all the schools and colleges. And flexibility in languages helped India to avoid a situation like Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka here, they have given all the power to only one particular language there, and they have neglected the Tamilians who were living there. So because of that, there were so many conflicts. So like there was no such problems that occur in India. There was a lot of flexibility in languages, and it helped India a lot. Now, our second test for the central government said to continue to use the English along the Hindi for official purposes, as English is also one of the languages that can be used not only in India but in the entire world. Now, how federalism is practiced on central and state relations. So it helps a lot to avoid clashes between the central and state, and when the same political party is ruling in central and state, the state couldn't enjoy more power as central government could influence the decisions of the states. But after 1990, basically not 1990, after 1992, many regional parties came up and acquired the power in states, and thus more independent decisions were taken by states and this federal system were practiced. So today these regional political parties are even affecting the decision making in central also. So we can say that today's power sharing is more effective, and it was more practiced in the early days or when the constitution was written. And all these changes also significant after 1990. This period saw a rise in these regional political parties in many states of the country, and it is beginning of the era of coalition government. So you all know what does coalition government means. So it's a government formed by the coming together of at least two political parties, usually partners in a coalition, form a political alliance and adopt a common program. Now the third tier of government, basically this federal power sharing in India needs another three tier of government, which is the local government. So the local government is the third tier of government, which is based on decentralization of power. For example, urban government has municipalities and this rural government has Panchayati Raj government. Now what brought about the real success of federalism in India were the nature of democratic policies were changed, the respect for democratic policies were increased, and desire for living together was also made possible. And what were the undermines of the spirit of this federalism were the central misusing of the constitution to dismiss the state government that was controlled by these rival parties, and this coalition government led to a new culture of power sharing and respect for the autonomy of state governments. Now, the linguistic diversity in India as a whole, in the census of India, which was held in 1991, was recorded that there are more than 1500 distinct languages which people mention as their mother tongues. Even after the grouping of this census, found in 114 major languages. And of these, 22 languages are now included in the 8th schedule of the Indian Constitution and now known as the scheduled languages. So basically there were 1500 district languages, from which many were grouped and merged together as a whole, and after that also there were 114 major languages, from which 22 languages were included in the 8th schedule of the Indian Constitution, and rest were 22 were there as a non-scheduled languages also. Now decentralization in India. So when the power, what does decentralization mean? Basically, firstly, when the power is taken away from the central and given to the other levels of the government is called decentralization. So when the power is taken from the central government, it's given to the second and the third tier of the government, it is decentralization, and it plays a very important role in democracy. How? Because it helps to reduce the burden of central government. Basically, the burden of the central government will be reduced, and it will help to increase the participation of the people in democratic process, and it will help to solve the local problem effectively. And this local self-government is called the school of democracy here. Now, how this local self-government have been given more power? How it was given? Because the act was passed in 1992 to empower the third level also by giving them regular elections. So there are regular elections that are happening there. Reservation to SC and ST groups are there. Then 1/3 reservation given to the women. States were to aid financially for this LCG, and the separate state election commission was formed. So the structure of this local self-government emerged as in the rural self-government there are three different levels. The first is the Zila Parishad, the third is Block Samiti and Panchayat Samiti, and the third is Village Panchayat. So in the Zila Parishad, it is the district level. The political head is called the ZP chairman, and it contains the member elected by this Block Samiti, and the membership of this is given by the MP and the MLA of that particular district. Now the second one is the Block Samiti and Panchayati Samiti. So in this block and taluka level, the political head is called the Panchayat Samiti chairman, and it contains the members elected by the village panchayat. Village panchayat, in village panchayat it is at early village or consisting the group of 2 or 3 level together. It contains the member elected by the villagers, and this political head of the village is called the Sarpanch. The most important committee in village is Gram Sabha. Now in urban self-government there are two things. That first is the municipality and the second one is municipal corporation. So in municipality it is at town level, and in municipal corporation it is at city level. And in municipality it contains all the members elected by the citizens of the town, and in municipal corporation it contains the members selected by the citizens of the city. Not much of a difference. It is basically for the town level and it is basically for the city level. And in municipality, this political head of the municipality is the municipality chairman, and here the political head of the municipal corporation is known as mayor. Now, what were the deficiencies of this local self-government was, first of all, the financial needs were not properly handled there. So they were not given any sort of financial security. There were problems of financial needs. There were irregular meetings, so they don't meet up on a regular basis. There were very irregular meetings on, and there are certainly purposes that have not been mentioned. And the women in active participation, basically in some of the villages today also, the women are not being given that power to give votes or sit in a particular committee that have been handled there. So these were the deficiencies. So as a whole we have done this chapter. Now we can have the homework solution that I have given you. So first of all I have will discuss about the NCERT question number 3. So the question was, you have to point out one feature in the practice of federalism in India that is similar to, and one feature that is different from the Belgium. So the answer is, in India, just like in Belgium, the central government has to share its power with the regional governments, and however, unlike India, Belgium has a community government in addition to the central and the state government. So this is one feature. Now NCERT question number 4. What is the main difference between a federal form of government and a unitary one? Explain with one example. So the answer is, in a federal form of government, the central government shares its power with the various constituent units of the country. For example, in India, power is divided between the government at the center and the various state governments. And in a unitary form of government, all the power is exercised by only one government. For example, in Sri Lanka, the national government has all the powers. Now, question number 5. So you have to state any two differences between the local government before and after the constitutional amendment in 1992. So the answer is, the local government before 1992 was, the elections were controlled by the state and not held regularly, and the local governments did not have any powers or resources of their own. And the second is, local government after 1992, and independent state election commission is responsible to conduct the elections regularly, and the state governments are required to share some power and revenue with this local government bodies. So this was all for homework solution. Now the homework in this lecture I want to give you is that, please read the chapter carefully and do the NCERT question number 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12 as a homework. So if you have any queries, you can ask on the website page also, where the students inquiry point is there, or you can ask me in the comment section also. Thank you so much.